Hello, my name is Alex. I work for JTB Distributors, and today we're going to be looking over the UF920 high capacity soft serve machine. We're going to be going through the breakdown, assembly, lubrication, and startup procedure on this machine. For cleaning and disassembly, we always recommend starting from the top down. So for the top, we have our lid that is covering our hopper and all of our hopper components. So I'm going to remove the lid. And inside of here, we have a pump located in the back wall of the hopper, a feed pipe, and our hopper agitator. To remove the pipe, you have to rotate your plastic component and pull it backwards towards you or towards the front of the machine. And you must rotate it about 45 degrees and then pull upwards to fully unlock this pipe. Once this pipe is out, if you're cleaning the machine, that may go into a bucket of warm sanitizer or just warm water to start dissolving the sugars and make cleaning easier. The next part that you will want to take out is your hopper spinner. And then you want to take out your pump, the actual pump system itself. To do that, you will rotate the pump clockwise about 45 degrees, and that will allow you to fully slide it out straight towards the front of the machine and then lift it out, just like so. When you have it out, the first thing you need to do is take out the pump shaft so that if an accident were to happen, you will not damage the pump body, which is this back part of the pump assembly. That I will place upside down on the back of the machine, place the shaft down, and our hopper is now completely disassembled on one side of the machine. Once you have all of your parts removed from the top part of the machine, being your hopper agitator here and all of your pump parts, you will have likely cleaned all of the surfaces up here to a nice and shiny condition, meaning hopefully you do not have to clean anything else up here. And now you can move on to the lower half of the machine where our door and our beaters are at. To remove the door, for this case, we have the handles removed for ease of visual, but we have 4 thumb nuts in each corner that are short and 2 that are long in the middle. For this process, you will likely want to have an empty bucket below to catch any drips that might still be in the system, but I will just loosen these thumb nuts almost to where they've been completely taken off of the all thread. Once you have all of the thumb nuts loose, it's a good idea to just lift the door a little bit and break the seal. And once your leftover liquids that might be in the system have dripped out, you can then remove your thumb nuts. Once you have that fully removed, you want to just pull straight out and ensure that none of your O-rings are going to drop. Put this either in your sink or your bucket. When you're removing the beater to clean and disassemble it, you will extract the beater straight out and make sure you support it as the weight is going to be released from the cylinder walls. And if I do not have my beater seal with it, I will have to reach in and confirm that I have it. So now that it's with it, I know I have all the parts for my beaters. And then to fully disassemble the beater, I will identify the clip on the end of the beater, plastics, and I will pull it out and lift it up. That will allow me to fully remove that, place it in a container, remove the next piece, do the same with that, and then remove the third and final piece. That makes it much easier to fully clean this beater shaft at the sink and then sanitize it. With the handles already removed, my usual first step is to actually use a handle almost as a tool to lift these pistons up and out. So right here, this piston is now lifted. It's much easier than pull out. I'm going to do the same for the center piston. I'm going to lever it, which allows me to then I'm going to have an easier time extracting that. And then I'm going to do that for the third piston. So with all my pistons out and removed, I can put these aside. I'm going to flip my door back around and I'm going to use my O-ring pick to then extract this main door O-ring. I have 2 of them. I can then extract them, quickly inspect them to see if they're still in good condition. And if I feel good, I'm going to put them in a bucket so I can go ahead and clean those. To clean the machine properly, we'll need to extract all of the O-rings from each component. This being the better way of removing these. Start with the O-ring furthest away from the edge, wrap it around, have it slide, and let it go ahead and slide over the first O-ring. I'm going to toss that into my bucket of O-rings. I'm going to remove the next gasket, and now this here is completely gasket free and ready to be scrubbed and cleaned fully, ensuring that I'm cleaning well behind the area where the O-rings go so that there's no buildup of bacteria. The piston that I removed from the center has an O-ring that is slightly different than the left and the right piston. The left and the right are exactly the same, but the center is specific to the center, being that it's 2 round O-rings that are connected along the middle. So it will be a little more difficult to pull out, but in concept, it's all the same. You pull out the one further away from the edge first, then you pull out the round part that's close to the edge, you pull it off, and then you remove it. So the center piston must always go in the center hole of the door with this center piston O-ring, but that can go with all the other O-rings in your O-ring bucket, and this can be cleaned very well in your sink. Step 1 is to extract the pump shaft. Then after that, you can extract the pump shaft seal. With the pump on its head, you can then depress the feed pipe and rotate the stem of the feed pipe counterclockwise until you have this hook here line up with this notch here on the feed pipe. With those 2 lined up, you can then fully extract the feed pipe here. The spring that comes in after it, and then the valve that you might have to loosen and then turn upside down to extract right here. On the feed pipe, you will need to get your pick to remove, or at least extract, the O-ring from the groove where it normally sits. For these smaller parts, I do recommend keeping it essentially on the part that it will then snap back into, so it's harder to lose. This is sufficient to then clean behind it with your brushes. Clean it, rinse it, sanitize it. We will then re-lubricate it and then just put it right back into place. But keeping it together like that prevents you from losing it as easily. So I will leave it like that. We can then go to the main pump assembly. They are held together by these 2 thumb nuts. They should never be too crazy tight, but when you assemble it, you do want it very tight. That allows you to then break the 2 halves apart from each other. Sometimes you do get this where a pump gear stays stuck to one of the surfaces. Normally it rides in here. But with this out, I can then try to extract the other pump gear, like so. And then I can get my O-ring pick again and extract this pump seal. So with that, all of our pump parts are now completely undone. I can then move on to our pipes. This white connector slides right off, just like so. This white connector has a white O-ring right at the tip here, and I will want to take my pick and once again remove that from its groove. Keep it on the component that it will then snap back to, but have it out of the groove so I can brush it with my brush and ensure that there's no bacteria building up back there. With that O-ring removed, we can move on to the next part, being these black O-rings that we have on the tip of the pipe here and the base of the pipe down here. I will get my O-ring pick and I will extract the O-ring from its groove. And this one I will fully remove and keep on this length of the pipe so that it's locked in place and I don't have to worry about losing it. I will then take my O-ring pick and go to the base of the pipe and remove the second O-ring and do the same as I did with the first one. And you will see that one of them is bigger than the other. The larger O-ring goes towards the base and the smaller O-ring goes towards the tip. Once those two O-rings are extracted from their groove, it will allow me to clean behind the O-ring in the groove. And to proceed to the next step, I will grab a paper towel and I'm going to remove this white pressure valve simply by pinching it and pulling it out like so. It's a very soft, very malleable valve that you do not want to extract with your O-ring pick. But with that removed, you can then carefully clean inside of it and you will use the small thin brush to clean all the way through the pipe. But with that, you have your hopper and pump parts completely disassembled. To assemble our components for the front door and lubricate them, I will start with my 4 simple, small, circular O-rings. I will put them in my hand, and at the same time, I will put just 1 dollop across all 4 and run all of that lubricant through my fingers to monitor and feel that we have no cuts or breaks in the O-rings. With those well lubricated and well coated, I will grab one of my pistons and identify that it's not the center piston O-ring that has this channel here in between. With this identified as a single flavor piston, I will then simply snap my O-ring onto it, just like that. And then I'm going to add 1 extra little dollop of lubricant on that metal surface here, and with gloves, simply spread it around, as this has to remain lubricated for a minimum of 14 days on these machines. These 2 pistons are interchangeable left and right, completely the same. This piston here is the center piston and was always go in the center hole of the spigot door. For that, I'm going to run it in between my hands where I already have a sufficient amount of lube. I'm going to snap it in the first channel of the piston. And for this O-ring, I'm likely going to have to get my tool, get that first ring out of the groove or channel, work it out so then it can slide to the next channel. And as I insert it in the second channel, the top part of the ring will land in the channel closer to the edge. I make sure it's fully seated, as this one experiences a little more tension and you want it to all be nice and snug. Then I'm going to get another dollop of lube and run it around. With that lubricated, I will grab my door, bring it over, and then align this vertical band from the O-ring in the middle of this channel. And with that, I can then just give it some light taps while pushing down. Depending on your surface, it might be easier to tap or just push down. And then you'll hear a firm snap towards the end, and you should see that your piston is poking out just a hair from the bottom. With the center piston now home, I can then get our left and right, and these are interchangeable. I'm just going to naturally put this one on the right. There we go. 2 firm snaps, as we have 2 firm, well lubricated O-rings. I ensure that my gap here where my finger is inserting for the handle is aligned straight. I will then turn this around, put it on its face, and then grab my 2 spigot door O-rings. I'm going to add a small dollop of lubricant, run it between my fingers and examine the O-rings, and again ensure I have no breaks, I don't feel any imperfections. because I don't want to have to disassemble the door once I find out I have a leak. With that confirmed being smooth, I'm then just going to insert it on this channel on the back of the door where it seals up against the machine. With that done, I'm going to turn it around again, and this is my opportunity to then insert my 3 handles into the channel and place my bar. For visual purposes, I'm only going to do 1, but I will remove it for the next step. But your handles can be installed before you install the door on the machine or after. That's a personal choice. To go through the lubrication of your pump, I'm going to start with the pump body here, where our gears slot into. To start, I'm going to get my tube of lubricant, and I'm going to put 2 large dollops similar to this. With gloves on, I'm then get my pinky finger, and I'm going to run it around in the figure 8 pattern, ensuring that I'm getting it on all the surfaces inside. And it's okay if I get it in the hole. I don't necessarily need to, but it's okay if I do. And once I have all of the surfaces completely coated, I'm going to get my pump gears, and I'm going to find the home for each. Each pump gear has an assigned home. This one here having this carve out on the inside going on this bigger hole or bigger collar with a hole in it. And this one here that's a simple hole that's straight through is going to go on the post right there. And I want to see that when I spin it around, I have some lubricant coming in between each of the teeth. If I don't in certain areas, right now is a good moment to then maybe get a little bit more. And then with my finger, just spread it inside of all of the teeth, because this amount of lubricant has to last you, in theory, a full 14 days of running many, many 100 times throughout your service on a daily basis. So with that lubricated, I'm then going to put that down and find my pump seal. I'm going to run it between my fingers and ensure that there are no rough spots or breaks or cuts in this pump seal, because this pump seal ensures I have a sealable pressurized vessel once I get my 2 pump halves together. So with the pump gears lubricated, my pump seal installed, I'm going to get my pump half here, my faceplate, and there's 2 ways of putting it together. If I put it together this way, you'll see you have a big old gap here. That means you assembled it incorrectly. You need to pull it off, rotate it 180 degrees, and then retry, and you should see that you have a perfect seal along the gap here. I then am going to get my thumb nuts here, tighten this on, do the same here, and tighten these down as tight as my fingers can go, because this here is what creates the pressure to run the pump. With that done, I'm going to turn it on its head like so, and I'm going to get my red seal here. I already have it a little bit lubricated, but I want to ensure all of my surfaces on this red seal are well lubricated. If not, I'm just going to get an extra little dollop like so and spread it around. Any remaining lubricant that might be on my fingers, I will then spread inside of this hole that is in the back. As this is the front of the pump, this is the back where the shaft goes through. I'm going to get my red seal like this and insert it and ensure it goes in straight and that there's no parts that are curled or sticking out. With that being done, I can then turn it on its head, and I want to go find my pump valve, which is this little piece here that we like to call our top hat. And I'm going to just let it fall into this hole here at the bottom side of our pump. If I just drop it in like that, I will then proceed to grab my spring here in either direction. It will then just fall in there like so. I'm going to ensure that I have my O-ring on my feed tube in its groove like that. And I will add a little bit of lube to then just spread around. And if I have excess, that will be good for the next step. I insert it so that my stem here is facing the direction that the red seal is in. So with it pointing towards the back, I'm gonna have my groove here, line up with my hook right here, and I'm gonna push all the way down, and then I'm gonna spin this lever clockwise until it spins 180 degrees from where it started, and it's now pointing towards the front. With that now installed, I can just rub my hand on the shaft with any of the remaining lubricant, and this shaft can go in either direction. I'm gonna go ahead and install it, and if it pops out like that, that's a great sign, because that means you have the pump lubricated enough where air is escaping and pushing this out in that manner. With that, this pump is now fully lubricated and ready to be assembled on the machine. To assemble our metal feed pipe, I'm going to first see that I have my 2 O-rings still remaining on this skinny part of the pipe. I can, with the remaining lubricant that I have on my gloves, spread it onto that O-ring and have it fall right into its groove here. I can go to the other side and do the same to the other O-ring and ensure that it snaps right here to the groove at the edge of the small end of the pipe. With those 2 in place, I will then grab my duckbill valve, and this needs just a light coating of lubricant to keep it pliable and to have it slip onto its hole and groove a little easier. I'm just going to essentially push it and crush it into the hole, and like that, it should be fully seated, and there's no orientation for this valve. With that installed, I'm gonna put that down, go to my white plastic tip, and it should still have my white O-ring right here on the ledge. I'm going to lubricate it. If I've ran out of extra lube on my glove, I will put just a small dollop like so. Ensure that that is very well lubricated. Get my pick, put it in its groove, feel it, see that it's in good condition. Bring my pipe and place the plastic tip onto the pipe like so. So confirm that it's nice and snug and that it slides around easy, and like that, this pipe is assembled. To assemble the machine, you will need to start first with your beater down on the bottom half of the machine. As we clean it, we start from the top down. When you are assembling, you assemble from the bottom up. To reassemble the beater, you're going to start with a bare and clean beater shaft, and you will take the first piece from your collection of parts, and the first piece that you want to install is this somewhat long plastic piece with these 4 fingers is what I call them, as they resemble your fingers. And I always install the fingers down, and you have 2 ways of installing it, as it is a round shaft with 2 flats. So you can install it like this, or 180 degrees like that. But once you pick an orientation, the next 2 pieces will have to match that orientation. So I place that down. The next piece is going to be the other somewhat long piece, and you will see that on one end you have a little plastic tab. That plastic tab will have to match the plastic hole or gap on the next piece of plastic. Once that's assembled, you're going to then go to your final piece for the trio, and you're going to match that tab with the hole once again. I'm going to pull my lever to relieve a little bit of pressure. I will have it fall down, fall into its locking place, and now this is not going to move, and this is fully assembled. For the plastics, for the beater seal, I'm going to get my lubricant, my Carpilube from Carpigiani, and I will add a small P of lube on that side of the shaft. Do the same on the other. I'm going to get my beater seal here, and I'm going to throw that onto the lube, and I'm going to rotate it and do the exact same amount of lube on the back side of this beater seal, as this amount of lube is ideally gonna serve you for at least 14 days. So you need sufficient lube to make it through the whole 14-day clean cycle. The beater seal is the most important part of the machine, as it prevents mix from leaking past the barrel back and getting inside the machine. And if the mix does leak past the cylinder, it will, in theory, get caught by your drip tray that's located on the side. The mix will fill in the tray and fall out the side of the hole. But if this becomes full and the product keeps spilling into the back, it may coat certain components that are just not ideally coated, as that will shorten the length of those very important components. With that fully lubricated and installed, all my plastics are ready. I'm going to put the shaft with these 4 fingers facing down like this, and that allows me to insert it and have it self-align, so then I can very easily slide the whole beater back, have it notch into the square part of the motor assembly, and be fully seated. And I know that I have it all assembled correctly. When I push on the metal shaft, I feel a little bit of almost rubbery tension, and the whole assembly pushes back. Once that's ready and I have both sides lubricated, I'm ready to install the front door. All of our components, as they are here, are all fully lubricated and secure. So now to install the door, I will just put these 2 threaded rods through the bottom holes first, just enough to then pivot the top and shut the door onto the machine face perfectly straight. If you are crooked, those all threads will snag and you will get caught, and we'll have to take it off, straighten it, and put it on straight again. With the door assembled, you can have the handles pre-installed, or you can install them after you've assembled and tightened the door. We can then grab our thumb nuts, and we have 4 short ones that go into the 4 corners and 2 long ones that go on either side of our center piston. So I will proceed with the bottom right, and I will just tighten that while putting light pressure on the front of the door. And once my thumb nut touches the plastic, I will stop. I will then get my other thumb nut and do the same. Light pressure, tighten it until it stops, and proceed to the other side. I feel resistance, so I stop. And I'm going to do that all the way around with all of my thumb nuts, so I ensure that the pressure being placed onto the door to the machine front is perfectly straight and even, as I do not want to over tighten one side more than the other, as that will potentially cause leaks from the door seals. So we've reached tension on all of them, and I will now tighten little by little in diagonal patterns, similar to what you would do if you're changing a tire. This just ensures even pressure across the door and across the seals. There we go. And again, I'm not going to be using any sort of tool to tighten these down, or any paper towels or regular towels to try and increase my grip and increase my tension. This finger tension across 6 thumb nuts should be plenty to create a good seal. And if you find that after you've assembled it with just thumb pressure and you potentially still have a leak, your troubleshooting for that is not to tighten further. It is to examine your O-rings and possibly replace if you have a continuous leak. So with that, our front door is assembled minus our handles, and you can move on to the next step. Once you have your lower half of the machine assembled, being your beater and your front door with your pistons sealed, you then want to move on to all your components in the hopper, or the top half of the machine. The first thing that I will install is our pump with our pump shaft. And I just want to be extra careful that when I'm maneuvering the pump and pump shaft, that I do not bang the shaft anywhere, as it is a very important system that keeps your machine running healthy. Once you have your pump fully lubricated, you are then going to want to install it on the back housing for the pump that's located on the back of your hopper. To install it, you'll want to bring it down. Usually it's easier to bring it down at an angle like this. You're going to insert it and find that it slips in relatively straight, and you're going to rotate it clockwise 45 degrees. That should then allow you to latch the hook that's located at the back of the pump onto the peg. But if it does not catch, all you have to do is take out the pump, pinch the shaft up here, and rotate it very small amounts in one direction. And then you want to try one more time. Sometimes you can get it on your first try, and sometimes it can take upwards of 5 to 6 tries, because you are just trying to get something aligned that you cannot see. So I still haven't gotten it. I'm gonna rotate it a few more degrees, again in the same direction. My direction that I usually pick is away from me, and I'm gonna slot it in, push it back, rotate it, and I can see from this angle that now I have it latched. When it's straight or horizontal like this, I can pull it back and it's not sliding around. This is now fully lubricated and assembled, ready for the next steps. Once you have your pump installed, you will want to install your feed tube and identify which one is located for which side, as they have assigned placements. This pipe here is assigned to the right side hopper, and it cannot be installed on the left side hopper. To install it, you will find the hole at the bottom of the hopper. You will slot that in, and while it's still loose like so, the tip of this white plastic connector will point to the back right corner of the hopper. If it's pointed at the back right corner, you should be relatively easily able to wiggle it and push straight down. Once you have it pushed as far down as you possibly can, it should enable you to then rotate the whole pipe around like so. If you have it fully inserted, you will then rotate this crescent moon shaped notch that is on the white connector from the 12 o'clock position where it is now to the 3 o'clock and then to the 5 o'clock position, as what you are trying to do is align that notch on the white connector with this hook on the pump. With those relatively aligned and my pipe now sticking or pointing straight forward and back, I'm then going to slide the white connector independent of the pipe. In essence, I'm holding the pipe firm and in place, and with my thumb here, I'm pushing the white connector back until it's fully flat with the face of the pump. With this white connector fully flush with the face of the pump, I will then rotate it counterclockwise so that my white connector notch or my crescent moon notch on it is now facing in the 12 o'clock position or straight at our ceiling. And now this component here is fully locked as well. For purposes of sanitizing, however, you will want to ensure that this pipe is not installed, as that'll prevent the sanitizer from flowing down into your cylinders to sanitize your barrel and your beaters. For the sanitization process, we will want to get a cold bucket of your sanitizer, and it can be any type of sanitizer that is food safe for kitchen utensils. And you want to ensure that when you are pouring in your sanitizer, that you have this pipe that normally connects to the front of your pump laying flat at the bottom of your hopper. This ensures that the whole pipe assembly gets coated in sanitizer and all of the surfaces get sanitized. So I will get my bucket of sanitizer that I poured in and dissolved my 1 scoop of dry powdered sanitizer. And 2 gallons is a good minimum amount so that you're not waiting a very long time for that sanitizer to pour out. Once I have my sanitizer in there, I'm going to get my brush and I want to brush all of the sanitizer on all of the surfaces that aren't submerged. that being the walls, the hopper agitator, and all of the surfaces of the pump that I handled during installation. Once the machine detects that it has any kind of liquid inside, if it is in stop mode, it will likely beep asking us why in stop, because it's concerned that we have a liquid in it and it's not refrigerating. I can turn off that alarm by pressing the stop button, so I can proceed with the sanitization process. I will get my empty bucket and bring it to the front of the machine, and I will then hit the center button to put the machine in clean mode. By pushing it one time, our beater motor is spinning and rotating our beater, and it is also running our pump, which gives us a moment to verify that our pump is flowing efficiently. The motors will only run for 30 seconds, and then after the 30 seconds have elapsed, the motors will automatically shut off. 30 seconds is about the perfect timing to ensure that all of your parts are well sanitized inside the beater, cylinder, and all your pump gears in the pump. If you want to skip that process, you can manually hit stop during that running cycle to pull down the handle and not have any undue splashes. Once your sanitizer is fully drained from the system, you want to go ahead and toss that sanitizer in the sink and then refill your bucket with about 2 gallons of plain cold rinsing water. You will then repeat that step with plain water in order to rinse out the sanitizer so that your final product doesn't have a sanitizer aftertaste. Once you've rinsed out the system and you have drained all of the regular rinsing water, your machine is then ready to fill with ice cream mix or yogurt mix, depending on the product that you are serving. Now that our hopper and entire system is sanitized, rinsed, and drained of our rinsing water, we are good to proceed with filling our machine with mix. The whole hopper and cylinder system takes about 6 gallons of ice cream mix to fill. And the first thing that I want to do when I'm filling my hopper with fresh mix is ensure that my pipe is out. It is not installed in the hole where it will end up being installed. I want to have it out and either hooked on the hopper wall like so, or possibly even on top of the machine or in a bucket, because I need to fill and have all my mix go down the hopper hole located at the bottom of the hopper to fill my cylinder first. So, seeing as our machine is sanitized and ready, I'm just gonna get my gallons of mix and pour it straight into the hopper, ensuring that my handle and my piston are closed. There's 1 gallon. We can hear and hopefully see that we have bubbles escaping the cylinder as it's filling up with soft serve mix. We are going to wait until those bubbles stop escaping before I plug in my pipe. It will take a couple minutes for that to happen, but ensuring that that fully stops by itself ensures that we have a primed barrel to start production with. Otherwise, if we prematurely plug the pipe in place, our barrel in our cylinder where our ice cream is made is going to be insufficiently filled, and we might have problems in the freeze up process. So that's about half full with our 3 gallons. And at some point through the process on our display, we should see that our display no longer reads mix out, and it simply says add mix. In this condition, in this state, we can, in theory, turn on the machine into production mode to actually make ice cream. So, being that I now have it above the halfway mark, it looks like my bubbles have stopped. I can take this moment to check the efficiency of my pump to confirm that is operating as needed, as intended. Once your bubbles have stopped by itself, and you have the machine filled where it no longer is alerting you of any mix alarms or mix conditions, you then want to press the middle button or our beater button to verify that we have good flow coming from our pump. So I will press it right now, one time, and while you don't have to, this is a good illustration to see the process. I'm gonna use this cup to catch the excess milk that comes out. I will press the button. The display will read beater plus pump on, and we should see that at our pump, we have a solid stream of mix coming out. Your verification that you wanna see is that our stream of mix is going over and fully passing our white stem on our feed tube. After 30 seconds of running, our pump and motors all should turn off. If you are not getting sufficient flow, what is likely the culprit is that your metal thumb nuts here and here are slightly loose. So if that is the case, that you're not getting sufficient flow, your first go-to is to simply tighten these two thumb nuts to better seal the two halves of the pump. If checking those two thumb nuts doesn't make your flow better, unfortunately, what you will likely have to do, but this is a perfect moment to do it, is remove the pump from its housing, open it, rinse it out very quickly with sanitizer, and apply more lubricant, because that lubricant is designed and intended to last you 14 days. So with my flow being sufficient, I'm going to get my pipe, ensure that it is the correct pipe, with it being the left hopper. When the pipe is vertical like this and pointing to the back with this white component, it should have a dog leg to the left. So I will then search for the hole at the bottom of the mix because I can no longer see it. On the left side of the machine, I have to align my white connector with the back left corner of the hopper. With it aligned, I should be able to just push straight down like so, and then swing it back and forth like this. With that being now fully seated, I will align my nozzle here with the white connector with the pump face. I'm going to rotate it clockwise so that this notch here spins from the 12 o'clock position where it was a second ago to the 5 o'clock position. From where I am standing right in the middle and center by the front of the machine, I can just see that notch that I'm trying to align. I then push this white connector straight back like so until it's flush with the pump faceplate, and then I rotate my white connector so that my notch that I had in the 5 o'clock proceeds to the 12 o'clock position, like so. So it is fully locked. With it fully locked, I will proceed to the front of the machine to our touchpad, and when I hit start, it will show me the freezing production mode that we are in and proceed to say do not serve. It is currently in yogurt. It is telling me do not serve. On the screen, W14 indicates that I then have 14 days until my next wash day, and T equals 49 equals the temperature of my hopper or my tank. So my mix is currently 49 degrees indicated by the machine, and it is likely going to drop as my refrigeration temperature mix cools the hopper. If we proceed to the pump, we heard the pump running, and now that we have built sufficient pressure, we have mix leaking out of our weed pools, and that is as designed. So that is no concern to have. Once our compressor is running and our pump has stopped pumping, we have about 8.5 minutes until we are ready to serve. It will go through this freeze cycle, and very soon we will be able to serve the ice cream from the left side. When in production, your main lead screen in production mode will be your do not serve / ready screen. To gain more information about what it's doing in production as it's occurring, you can press the start button or the green button to get more information. So now it's telling me precisely what my temperatures are for my hopper, 47 degrees, and my cylinder, which is currently 20 degrees, and the downward arrow means that it's currently trying to drop the temperature in the cylinder where our ice cream is being created. We should find that the final temperature is somewhere around 15 to 18 degrees, depending on your product. If I hit the start button one more time, it leads me to my third screen, which is my consistency screen. This is what tells me and informs me where my set consistency is at. Currently, it's at a set consistency of 95, which the machine is trying to achieve. My HOT is the current consistency of what the machine is detecting here in the barrel. Currently, it's at 64, 62. That value starts at around 10 to 15 under liquid conditions. And as that product firms up and becomes more and more frozen, it climbs in consistency. It climbs slowly to start, but speeds up as it gets more and more frozen. So we're seeing currently that it's at a value of about 80. As it continues to freeze, we can go to the next page and see specific temperatures for our temperature probes. So this is just all getting colder and colder. We have another 4 temperature probes. We have the count of the cones that we've served today, and we have the count of total servings done by the machine on this specific side. Once I cycle back to our first page during the production screen, I can see that the machine is indicating ready, or that the machine has calculated that the consistency has hit my set point. Once that is accomplished, we will see that our freezing arrow is now going to indicate for the hopper. As our barrel is now completely frozen and happy, it is now going to cool the mix that we have in the hopper to then achieve refrigeration temperature for the hopper. Once that consistency check is achieved in our cylinder, the temperature check is then going to happen for our hopper. And once both have been checked and verified that are good, the whole machine will shut down on the left side and go into idle mode until you serve a serving for yourself or a customer. So, being that it is ready on the left side of the machine here, I'm gonna get back to my home screen, and I am going to pull a cup. And I should pull a cup, the motor should turn on, and our first serving tends to be a little soft, but after that, all that comes out is perfectly firm product. And we should see that we have a nice little crown, and we turn it sideways. Depending on how well I stuck it in there, that crown is still facing upwards. So this product is very happy, at a good consistency, ready to serve to a customer. And all you need to do is ensure that your hopper stays full and that this red light here never remains on for more than about 5 minutes. And if you're able to do that, the machine will run smoothly all day long with no problems whatsoever. Once your service period is towards its end and you know that you are no longer needing to serve any more customers, what you will want to do is put the machine in standby or storage mode. What this mode does is ensure that the machine is only working just enough to keep the mix refrigerated and food safe. So to do that, even though everything is running and it's currently saying that my ice cream is ready, I'm going to quickly hit stop. One time, the whole machine shuts off. It goes into what's essentially its idle stop mode. And once it's in stop mode, I will then press our reset/storage button. With one press of that, our pump will run one more time and our screen will be slightly different than our production screen. All that it will give me on my screen is our hopper temperature and our cylinder temperature. And the machine is going to ensure that overnight, as the temperature slowly climbs up, that our hopper temperature and our cylinder temp stays under 39, basically 38 to 37 degrees. And that will be all it does until usually 2 a.m., where it will then do its heat cycle. It should finish its heat cycle in about 2 hours. It will put it back into storage mode automatically, and then the user, to turn it back on, will come in, hit stop, and then hit start once again to commence the service cycle all over again for another 8 to so hours, depending on your service schedule. For standard daily closing procedures, this drip tray here can be removed and dumped of any drips that have accumulated throughout the day. Because it is simple to remove and quickly spray down, it can be taken off, and it's good standard and good practice to clean it a couple times a day. This can be washed on a daily basis, and this whole shelf here should be removed or at least checked daily, but definitely cleaned once a week. And that can be removed by lifting like so and pulling off and cleaning behind here, and cleaning here as drips accumulate and fall in between the crack and build up. To install, you just do the reverse. Sometimes it can be a little finicky and you have to look underneath, but you should eventually get a nice stable surface to then put your drip tray back on, like so. We will now go over the touchpad controls on the UF920. The control pad on the 920 is very similar side to side. There are only small differences between the two, but in general operation, everything will be the same. On the touchpad, we have a manual stop for each side that, when pressed, will shut all functions down and essentially make the machine idle. No refrigeration will happen when you are in stop mode. The next button down the line is our start button. When the start button is pressed, the machine will go into its production cycle. The production cycle can be a dairy soft serve product, a yogurt frozen product, and a fruit slush type of product. The button in the middle is your beater button, which is also known as your cleaning button, as you mostly use it during your cleaning cycle when the machine calls for a cleaning cycle to be done. It also functions as a touchpad locking button that will lock you out of actually using the touchpad until you forcefully and manually unlock the touchpad. For the usage of cleaning, when the button is pressed, it will turn on simply the motors of the machine, but not turn on the compressor, so there will be no cooling. This allows you to extract any ice cream that's in the barrel or test the components separate from the compressor and separate of cooling. The fourth button on the display is our pasteurization or heat cycle button, and it also allows you to adjust values when you are in certain menus of the machine. Predominantly, the heat cycle button is not pressed. It can be for manual pasteurization, but most users will allow the heat cycle to happen automatically at a set time, usually around 2 in the morning. The final button on our touchpad is our storage/standby and also a reset button to clear alarms. When you are no longer making ice cream and your service has ended, you will need to press this button and put it in storage mode so that your product stays at a refrigerated 37 degrees so that it's servable the next day. If alarms are to come up or messages alerting you of certain completions of functions, you can press the reset button to clear an alarm or clear a message. The other function that this button allows you to do is lower values in certain menus. May that be consistency or time. So you have minus on the reset button and plus on the flame button. Common troubleshooting steps with the UF920. The UF920 has a self-diagnostic and reporting system built into the board and system. So any common errors or alarms that the machine detects will show up on the screen when the machine turns itself off. Common ones are an abbreviated max beater absorbed. That is telling you that the main motor for the beater has overheated and it shut itself off to prevent undue wear or damage to the beater motor. A common issue that is reported to us by users is a grinding noise coming from the machine, but it is easily fixable by staff in a quick 10-minute process. Sweet. If you hear a grinding noise or if you have problems with product not coming out, your go-to solution is to examine your pump and check all of your components at the top simply with the pump or the pipe. You do not need to clean the entire machine. A lot of it can be diagnosed in 10 to 15 minutes and fixed in those 10 to 15 minutes. Your steps for fixing the grinding noise or issues with serving are to first put the machine in stop mode. Once the machine is in stop mode, you will get a spare cup and pull the handle on the side that seems to be making the most noise. If you have a vanilla and chocolate flavor setup, chances are it will be happening on your more popular vanilla side. So you will simply get the handle and put your cup underneath and slowly pull the handle, so if there's any pressure in the system, it escapes slowly into the cup and not quickly making a mess. Once you have released the pressure in the cylinder and in the system, you will then proceed to go to the top of the machine and you will want to remove this pipe from its locked positions. Normally, you have it fully seated and fully locked in the pump during operation. But for this step, we will want to remove it, effectively removing the plug at the bottom of the hopper to allow more liquid mix to fill our cylinder, as the issue that we're usually seeing is that our cylinder has become low on mix. Once you have removed this pipe, you will hopefully see that you have bubbles coming out of the full hopper that has liquid mix. You will wait until those bubbles dissipate, and while you are waiting for those bubbles to dissipate, you will want to check the efficiency of your pump, because it is possible that you have an obstruction in the pump or it is not well lubricating, causing the issue. Once you have relieved the pressure from the barrel and the system, you are then safe to remove the pipe that connects from the bottom of the hopper to the front of the pump. When we undo this pipe, you are allowing the mix to then flow to refill your cylinder, as more than likely it has become low on mix. Once the bubbles have stopped rising from the liquid mix, you are then safe to check the flow of your pump. And the way to do that is by simply going to the front of the touchscreen and pressing the middle button, which will turn on your beater motor and your pump motor. You should ideally see that you have a strong flow coming from the pump. This flow that we have from the pump right now is sufficient to keep up with even high production yields for the machine. Once I have confirmed that we have strong flow, I can manually hit stop. And once my bubbles have stopped rising from the hole at the bottom of the hopper, I am then safe to reconnect my pipe to the bottom of the hopper and to the front of the pump. By doing those steps in that order, releasing the pressure, removing my pipe, ensuring bubbles are coming out from the mix and refilling my cylinder, I have effectively reprimed the cylinder with fresh liquid mix, and it should then ensure that the next time the motor starts and freezes the barrel, we have smooth operation and not grinding, rocky sounding noises. With the self-diagnostics that the machine will do in case there are any alarms or errors in the unit, those alarms will all be presented on the screen common ones being max beater absorbed or pasto failed, storage failed. All those alarms are listed in the user manual, but a lot of the time, simply cleaning the machine will make a lot of the alarms clear and allow the machine to be used again. If you have an errant alarm or just a simple message, many of those can be reset by hitting the reset button. This will allow you to continue with your production during that same service period, acknowledging that you may have had an issue, you may have resolved it in that moment, and now you're allowed to go back into your production service cycle. Currently on our touchpad, it is indicating mix out because the machine is completely empty. When it's empty in between clean cycles, it is a good time to routinely check our menus and make sure that things are set correctly. So to access our manager menu, you'll want to have the machine in stop mode as it is now, and we will simultaneously press the stop button and our reset or standby button together. And you will then hold until it flashes manager menu or user menu, depending on your model, on the screen. So I'm going to proceed to do that. User menu, I let go, and here I am in the user menu. So our first option on the user menu is the date. To change the date, if you ever have to, you will then proceed by hitting start, which will get you into the date submenu. Once you're in the date submenu, you can hit start again to have an arrow pop up, which will then allow you to edit the value with the plus minus buttons. By increasing it, you will increase the value. By decreasing it, you will decrease it. And by hitting start, you will move to the next value that is editable. Once that has been edited to what you have desired, you can then hit stop to get out of edit mode, and then hit stop again to exit that submenu and return back to your general user menu. It is good practice to then hit start and confirm that your edits have been saved entirely by the machine. The next option in our menu is our time submenu. To change that, I will hit start to enter the submenu, and here is my current time that is set on the machine. If I need to edit it, I will again hit start. My edit arrow will appear, and I can then freely edit that number, in this case, the hour. I can hit start again to move my edit arrow to the minute, adjust that as I please, and then I can move it from AM to PM. Once I'm done editing, I can then hit stop. It will remove my edit arrow. I can hit stop again to exit the time submenu. I'm back to my general user menu, and I will go back into my submenu just to confirm that everything is as I left it. Once that is checked, if I have other things like alarms that I want to inspect, I can go into that submenu. Currently there is one alarm of one, and that being mix out. The next menu is the events menu. And with the events menu, if I select that, I can see prior events that have happened with the machine. That can be manual presses of the stop button. I can see when production was selected. I can see when storage was enabled, or when automatic functions have happened, or even alarms have occurred. The next setting or option in the user menu is information, which just gives you the simple information about the machine and its model information. The next setting is your language, which you can enter and adjust as you please. I will keep it to English. I will back out, back to my user menu, and I will proceed. The next setup or option is the auto setup, and that you never want to enable or select without the consultation of a technician. Our next option in the user menu is our pasteurization list, and that will allow us to see when our pasteurization or heat cycles have occurred, to also see the start time, the end time, and monitor the health or condition of the machine. The next setting is our auto production submenu. This menu allows you to enable or disable the automatic production feature of the machine. And if you have it enabled or in yes mode, you could then set an exact time in the morning or afternoon where the machine will automatically start making ice cream. On this particular model currently, we have it generally set to no, and that will mean that to turn it into production, you will have to manually put it in production mode. The next setting in the user menu is the auto storage submenu. That, similar to the auto production setting, allows you to automatically put the machine in storage mode or the thermometer mode, or also known as the standby or overnight mode. With it set to yes, I can then set an exact time, in this case, 10 o'clock or 10 p.m., where the machine will automatically move itself from production into storage mode, where the machine will work less frequently because it is just keeping our mix at refrigeration temperature. If I back out of that menu and proceed to our next submenu, the following submenu is our auto pasto or auto pasteurization setting. If I select that, I will see that currently on this test model, it is set for no. Many users will have it set to yes. And by hitting the plus button, you can then set your specific time to go through the auto pasto or auto heat time. Usually, users have it set for around 2 a.m., where it will all occur automatically when no one is using the machine. On most models, the auto heat mode or auto pasto is controlled by the left side of the machine only. If I try and change that value or setting on the right side of the machine, I will not be able to. If I move to the next step, auto hot cold is a feature that isn't predominantly used in the United States, so we will skip over that. Our final submenu in the user menu is our parameter submenu. Inside of the parameter submenu are a list of parameters or settings that the manager or user are free to change, but are warned against changing too many variables, as this can alter the production cycle that you are accustomed to. The second, or the set hot setting, also listed as 1010, is a very common consistency parameter that the user should know how to change depending on their product.